Cuff. I'm your host, Mark Scott. We're going to be talking about our Kibalon Village tonight and educate you on all that's happening in your community. We want to welcome you to WJZZ Cool TV and just sit back, relax, and educated on all of Kwanzaa and Al Kibalon Village and the two gentlemen that are here with me today. We have Marvis Cofield, who is the founder of Al Kibalon Village. How you doing, Marvis?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate what you're saying. I'm one of the founders,
One of the founders.
but one of the key people who thought it was necessary for it not to be a me, but to be a we. So there was a group of black belts in 1978 who came together as a result of not having a martial art organization school in the city of Detroit. As a youngster, we had to go outside of the community to get martial arts, and usually it was an arm and a leg, in some cases two legs. And we thought it was important for us to have a martial art program in the city for people who look like us, who can teach us, and subsequently we created what we call the El Kibalon Martial Arts Federation. But even before then, as a youngster, I was introduced to the martial art in 1969 through a program, a community center, which was called Inner City Sub Center. Brother Paul Taylor and Dave Booker, who were two of the founders, who saw the need as Wayne State students to bring programs back to the inner city. They started in Wayne State, and subsequently they were able to get a building on the east side. Inner City Sub Center, they called it Sub Center because they wanted to have 4 different locations, east, west, south, and north. Fortunately for us, they started on the east side, and they did some work on different parts of the city, but the main program was on the east side on 8411, the East Force. I was 14 then, and it was an after-school program.
Okay, all right.
And so that's how I got involved, because folks said, well, how did you get involved in the martial arts? Like most programs, you had to have a hook. So I was there in terms of the martial arts, but they did many things. Back then they called it a Black Conscious program, that black thing, if you will. And it was something that a lot of folks in 1969 were just being introduced to in terms of understanding who they are and whose they are. So as a young person, I got involved in the after-school tutoring, and they had games, pool, ping pong, you name it. But what caught my attention was the martial arts. And believe it or not, I was in judo, which is a different form of martial art than karate.
Yep.
It caught my attention, and I stayed there for a while and got a black belt there. And then I saw the need to expand my knowledge, and with some help from people who looked like me, got into the martial arts through a karate demonstration that was held at Wayne State Community Arts Auditorium. So that's just a little something about how we started.
All right, all right. Let me ask you a question. What ages do you start at Al Kibalon Village?
That's a good question, Mark. I always say from the womb, from the tomb. Even if women are pregnant, they can start, and that baby is learning disrespect, some discipline and respect.
Sure.
But in terms of actually starting as a child, we take it from 2 to 102.
Okay, all right, all right. So you're based in the community.
Yes, we are. We are, matter of fact, on Harper, 1 block west of Van Dyke, 7701 Harper.
Okay.
Been in that area for the last 35 years. But we started, as I said, out of the inner city sub center, which was on Forest, 8411 East Forest. And then it was an outgrowth, and we got our own building, and subsequently we begun to do what the inner city sub center wanted to do. We had 4 or 5 different locations throughout the city. And so eventually we thought it was good to have a main headquarters. And subsequently in 1984, we found the building. We had to rehab it, and we brought it to life, and that's where we've been ever since. But the bottom line, the martial arts was the foundation. As I mentioned earlier, there was a group of black belt men and women, and came together and said that we need to do something for ourselves. We need to have our own institution. And so we said, hey, let's take this moment. And Brother Greg McKenzie, he tells the story better than I do, because as a kid, I didn't understand what we were doing, but it was definitely a revolutionary moment, because we were not given the respect as leaders or entrepreneurs. We was looked at as gladiators. We fought for the Asians in their schools and represented them in the tournaments, as well as other folks who ran their own schools, but never had the opportunity to be the owner or benefit from the resources that we generated by being their gladiators, if you will. And we said, well, we got to stop this. And so we got together, as I said earlier, and created the Kibalon Martial Arts Federation. Matter of fact, 45 years ago. This year we're celebrating 45 years. And I always say, wow, what a difference 45 years
that
makes.
for something to last that long
For sure.
in the community under black reign
Well, and we
is phenomenal in itself.
Well, as I keep saying, it's not a me, but it's a we. And I had to take my hat off to all of those who believed then as we believe now. That if you put your mind to it, you can do it. So after 45 years, over 250,000 young people, adults and children and women have benefited through our workshops internally as well as external. We've traveled the country as well as international. We had an opportunity in 1995 to go to Senegal and build a relationship with some of the Senegal leads who were in the martial arts. We've been, matter of fact, to Jamaica, had a relationship there, and we met some martial artists.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So we believe from the grassroots to global.
Oh yeah, okay. So you have Greg here.
Oh man, Greg McKenzie, I'm gonna let him tell the story, but and I say this all the time, that he brings what we call the triads in terms of how we look at things in threes, the mental, moral, and martial. But when we talk about the martial arts and what we did, sometimes you can be too close to the forest that you can't see the trees.
Sure.
So I'm gonna let Greg speak to what he saw and what he understood what we did with the martial arts
Okay.
and other activities.
So now, before we get to you, Greg,
Sure.
I want to ask one more question.
Yes, sir, please.
I know you operate out of Harper, at your headquarters.
Yes, sir.
But do you ever take it into the community at large, outside of the building, into the community at large, and take to people that aren't directly affiliated with Al Kibalon to educate the community that you are there, and that they can come to you for certain teachings and guidance in black culture?
Right. I'm glad you asked that because, ironically speaking, in order to be where we are today, it was a direct result of having outreach programs.
Sure.
Where we were in faith-based, community-based.
Okay.
And,
You say faith-based.
Churches,
Okay.
if you will. Community centers, recreation centers, parks and recreation centers.
Ah.
Back in 1985.
Affiliated with the city of Detroit.
With the city of Detroit. We,
Okay.
at that time, when we first went into the recreation centers, we were in one or two recreation centers, and then before I know it, they asked us to be responsible for most of the recreation centers. So at one time, between 1980 and up to 1990, we were in 20 different recreation centers because we had different instructors. But at the same time, we were in the schools too. We were able to go into the schools during school as well as after school. So when you're talking about faith-based, that's the churches. If you talk about recreation centers, then we did that. And then we talk about community-based, then went into the schools, specifically the schools where we had at one time 20 different instructors in 20 different schools.
Wow.
And we had students who were from K through 12th graders who were able to understand the importance of ownership, understand that martial art taught self-respect, self-control, self-discipline, and lastly,
absolutely.
self-defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you talk about outside outreach, and thanks to Barbara Gregg and others, we're getting ready, as we celebrated our 45th year, we had to regenerate, if you will. We had to rebrand, but yet, thanks, unfortunately, but fortunately to Corbett, we made it through 2 to 3 years. But even during those times, the martial arts still was alive in the village. We had to change our social interaction, but the bottom line, we never stopped. And one of our theme songs, is Ain't No Stopping Us Now. But now, 2024, we're getting ready to go back into the faith-based, community-based, recreation centers, and we have a plan. So, as you asked, have we and do we go outside the community? For sure. But, we have to make sure that the village is taken care of first before we go outside.
Absolutely.
But we definitely are going to be doing some outreach work.
Absolutely, and keep the youth interested.
That's right.
Because that's the future.
Teach art.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Right on.
I've always been intrigued. As you know,
Yes, sir.
We have a long association
Yes, we do.
through multiple different genres. Um, but you also teach fundamentals there.
Yes, sir.
It's not just martial arts. Tell us about some of the other things that are taught there.
Well, I'm glad you said that. We have a foundation what we call mental, moral, and martial. And with that, if you don't mind, I believe in what we call the triad specifically in terms of the elders represent experience, the younger folks represent the energy, and then you put the elders and the young folks together, you have a team, and that gives you that excitement. So with that, I am, believe it or not, took a long time to acknowledge it, but I am an elder, and Barbara Gregg is a youth on the way to eldership. But with that in mind, I would like to turn it over where he can speak to what we do and what the foundation and how we have built as a result of understanding that it's a we,
Okay,
if you don't mind.
let me do a station.
Okay.
You're watching Off the Cuff. I'm your host, Mark Scott. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of social events, music, entertainment, dance, theater, and just covering a whole gambit of subjects. So you're watching us. We're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. So like us, follow us, share us, and leave your comments. And subscribe, absolutely subscribe, so that you can get this information that's happening in your community. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Okay, so now we have Mr. Greg McKenzie.
Yes.
All right. We have we met before?
Absolutely.
I think we have.
Absolutely.
I
We've
did.
had an opportunity
It's
to
been a while though.
Yeah, acquainted. I believe it was on the 40th anniversary, if I'm not wrong.
That's right.
At the Northwest Activity Center.
Absolutely.
Okay,
That's right.
all
And
right.
you all came and turned the party out for us.
Yes, you did.
Yes. We have video proof. In case anybody think I'm just saying that, just to be saying stuff, they actually came and turned the party out.
Okay, all right. So what is your function down at El Kibalon Village?
So at our Kibalon Village, my official title is Business Development Coordinator. But the bottom line, my function is to see to it that our Kibalon Village continues to function at a very high level as it has, and be a beacon in the community for youth development, business development, and community development.
Okay.
So that's the triad that we seek to continue to cultivate, youth development being the foundation of it all, where things started, but then understanding the need to sustain our own enterprises and not be dependent on donor-based funding. Business development becomes a priority. And then beyond that, as you said, our outreach. How does this impact more than just those who are within the village? Well, through community development, we extend the village from a philosophy to a geography. And so we begin to become an Al-Kibalon village in our neighborhood and beyond.
Okay. So when he's talking about us turning the place out, he's talking about Bobby Rogers, when I was with Bobby Rogers, and we formulated the Miracles featuring Mark Scott, and we went down there and performed for them. You guys gave me an award that I still cherish. That it was one of the most important awards that I have, because it came from the community.
Right on.
It came from people who are involved in the community. I had a guy that told me, it was Don Davis, as a matter of fact, and he told me, don't believe your own hype. And don't break your arm patting yourself on the back. It doesn't mean anything if you're the only one that's giving yourself accolades. It's not to say that you don't be proud of what you do.
That's right.
But it means more when it's coming from someone else. That means you're appreciated. So that was an honor. I think my guys were really excited about that event, and we were happy to do it. Absolutely.
And it's events like that keep our Kibalon village going. Rather than just wait around or dance to the tune of whomever's handing out the money.
Yeah.
We seek to be self-sustaining, and we find our own fundraising activities to engage in
We're gonna
and
do it
raise
again.
money annually.
We're gonna do that again. We're going to do that again. I got some things happening right now. We'll be talking about that for sure.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
So, what do you? How do you bring the young people in the community into the financial aspect and the building, independent wealth?
Yeah.
How do you bring that into? How do you bring the young people into that mindset?
Your question is a perfect setup for a program that we have called Building Positive Leaders.
Okay.
Building Positive Leaders is an annual summer job, work experience, where not only do they work, but they learn, because the main pillar that the program is built on is mental health, wellness,
Okay.
and awareness. So it's funded by the Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network and
The Detroit what now?
Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network.
Okay.
We call them DWIN.
Okay. Is
And
there a
forgive me,
website
I
for
say
that?
it super fast.
Is there a website for that? Or?
I'm sure they have a website.
Okay.
Yeah, they're one of the largest mental health institutions in the city.
Okay.
And they give us some money every summer to give young people a summer work and learning experience.
All right.
So, but what we've done with that, I have a background in real estate to some extent. And so we've taken and exposed them to light residential construction. So it's only 8 weeks, so they don't have time to really get deep into what that's about. But they get some exposure to power tools. They get some exposure to working in that environment with personal protection equipment. What is it like to enter into an abandoned home and to start to clean it up, to start to demolish and remove the things that are no longer viable in the structure, then replace the things that can be replaced, and start to breathe life back into a building so that it can become a home for someone versus just a vacant place. So we get into that with them in the summer, as well as start to teach them about the history of the housing industry in the United States, in Detroit in particular. And so the city of Detroit's historian, before that was his title, Baba Jamon Jordan, is a very close friend of our Keebalon Village. He leads 2 tours every summer with our youth. It's important to me for them to understand the context and background of a reality that we couldn't always own property. There were racial restrictive covenants that kept black people from getting mortgages or buying homes. And so understanding this history, then we make them realize how important it is now to take advantage of the opportunities on the table, where there are no restrictions barring you from buying homes. And there's a lot of home opportunities in the city of Detroit. And with just a little knowledge of how you can renovate a house, you don't have to be the person doing the work, but you should understand what the people doing the work
Absolutely.
are doing, so that you can manage it and not get beat out of the resources that you're trying to turn into something. And so the program is really geared towards taking young people and pushing them into a financial independent place, a place where they can create for themselves financial opportunities where they otherwise don't exist.
So you also teach financial literacy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, as a part of that
how to
program.
manage your money and how to invest it and that sort of thing.
As a part of that program, willing participants go and get a bank account.
Yeah.
With the parents' permission, of course. And then we have the bank staff come and talk to them about some of the fundamentals and rudiments of money management and all of that kind of stuff.
All right.
So the program is robust. In the process, they make some money, so they get $12.50 an hour. I keep going up. I know Infudici is probably keeping a close eye on me, but I just believe in paying the young people very well, motivating them with a higher than average pay, so that the other young people who have jobs too, they can kind of brag and say, well, I make this at my job, and feel proud about it and realize that they're in a special place.
It also helps to grow your program.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's a good reach out. I like that. I like that. That's wonderful. Man, I'm gonna spend more time. I'm moving around so much. As you know,
For sure.
Marcus,
No question.
I want to do more, but the time is a factor. But you know what? I'm gonna eliminate that in 2024.
Well, hey, we're going to hold you to it. I know
You do that.
Your word has been in your bond, and Greg made mention earlier in terms of entrepreneurship, but also in terms of mental health. But you speak on the importance of our young people and parenting, and how that program made a difference in how they know about themselves and self-help. in her self-worth, if you will.
Absolutely. The mental health program that we have, I tell you, a funny thing that we did, you may not even connect this to mental health, but we took them on a play therapy excursion to Cedar Point. So, if you told me that we were going to Cedar Point, I wouldn't think anything mental health about it. But the reality is, play therapy is an important part of mental health wellness, where if you're working really hard, generally you treat yourself in some capacity to an opportunity to just enjoy yourself. And so through, our partnership with others, like I say, Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network, also NCADD, National Council on Alcohol and Drug Dependence, one of our partners, we took about 75 young people to Cedar Point, and the day before they had a workshop where there was a series of lessons that they had to learn about mental health wellness, awareness, what to look out for, how to help a friend, where to get resources if you need help. And then after the workshop, successful completion, then they got the play therapy exercise. So we deeply involve our young people in the mental health space because we realize that the social media world is constantly attacking them and causing them to reevaluate themselves on the basis of false ideals and notions that are propped up in these social media spaces. And so we know that they need a lot of support for what the truth really is because they're young people.
Sure.
And so they're impressionable. And so these not mental health, but these social media platforms capitalize on that. But through right knowledge from folks who are trained to do it, we help them sort of reevaluate and be critical thinkers. That's our highest goal. We want our young people to be critical thinkers. When presented with a group of information or data, they can weigh options and then make the decision that makes the most sense. Not be told step by step what needs to be done or need that type of guidance and direction all the time, but have an internal sense of how you reason through things and then make some decisions.
So in the process of doing that, do you also involve the family members of those individuals?
Yes, we do. One example of that is the Black Education Workshop. So every February, we invite parents, students, and teachers together to learn from and with each other. And so the way that looks is we'll have a literacy expert, let's say we'll have a math expert, a history expert, a science expert, come in and talk to the parents, students, and teachers, but we break them up. So we'll have a math person do a workshop with the parents, a literacy person do a workshop with the students, science workshop with the teachers. Then take a halfway point break, bring them all back together to talk with each other about what they learned.
Okay.
And so in this way, the children are more receptive to the parents telling them what they learned if the parents are willing to listen to what they learn. So when the child can become the teacher, then they can more readily receive the message from the teacher and parents. They feel the adults are listening to them, so they're willing to listen. And so we got that model from a strengthening families program that we had, a best practices model running over at the village when I first got there. And I was so impressed by how impactful it was in helping the parents and children do a better job of having a family relationship. We integrated it into our Black Education Workshop. And so we use that model in connection with just like a professional education and development / tutorial clinic for the youth.
Right. And in doing so, you strengthen the family structure.
Absolutely.
In the community.
Yep.
And that's an outstanding endeavor, man. That's incredible.
Because the parents are the first teachers of the children. And the children leave school and go into a home environment where if they're learning one thing at school and something else at home or vice versa, that information is in flux. So we want as much as possible the 3 V's. Our Keep Line is full of triads. The 3 V's, common view, voice, and value.
Okay.
So we want a common voice across platforms, parents and teachers, so that they can work together as a team so that the child gets the most out of it. That's what we want at the end of the day. A healthy, strong tomorrow by building healthy, strong young people.
Yeah. Wow. That's outstanding. Outstanding. Wow. Al-Kibalan Village.
For sure.
Al-Kibalan Village. I can't say it more. I can't say it enough. You guys need to check out Al-Kibalan Village. It's on Harper. Give me that address again.
7701 Harper, 1 block west of Van Dyke. And you're talking about an area that at one time folks came and said, well, hey, another year people will be gone. Business have left us. Who's going to turn off the light, if you will, on Harper? We said, no, the light is burning. Matter of fact, it's burning with the energy and, the whole feeling of rebuilding. And with that being said,
Yes.
we're going back to the streets, going back to the alleys and rehabbing the buildings, the parks, the alleys. And with that being said, Greg, talk about this new initiative, what we're getting ready to do as a response to not just wanting the streets to look good, but we want to go back where we can walk down our alleys and sit back and feel good about what's happening in the front as well as in the back of the houses. Will you
That's
please?
right. So, I mean, sometimes the worst of times, and Fadishi says this quite often, the worst of times can be the best of times. So in 2015, a house fire claimed the lives of 2 of our program participants, Cortez and Cortez Burrell. I believe 13 and 17 years old.
Right.
It was a tremendous tragedy. I'm talking about one that caused us to have grief counselors for several days doing workshops with the staff, with the parents, with the students. Everybody was impacted. In the process, the grief therapist told us to, and this is Patrice Lucas, by the way, I want to shout that sister out. Patrice Lucas is an incredible counselor. She works with us every year. So when I'm talking about these mental health people that come in the summer and work with our young people, she's one of them. But she talked to us about having a grief, a art therapy project to heal the grief.
Sure.
So across the street from Al-Kibalan Village, the community has created a walkway in a vacant lot to make a shortcut from one block to another. It's just a natural thing that happens.
Sure.
They've walked the grass down. It's an obvious pathway, and it's been there for years. So the young people went and put art in that walkway and said, we're going to put beautiful messages to our community that walks across this pathway as a way to feel better about what we're going through. And matter of fact, we want to name this pathway something. Brilliant and creative young people said, let's call it the Burrell Trail. So they named it after the last name of the brothers who passed away. So the Burrell Trail has such a beautiful ring to it. They made a picture. People, we put a bench out there. All kinds of things started to happen in that space. Fast forward a few years later, Corey Beatty of Detroit Ain't Violent is Safe, Davis is the name of his company. He was working with the National Wildlife Habitat Council, and they looked down that alleyway and said, this thing goes all the way through from one end to the other. I don't know if y'all know it, but this is a alley that could be reopened and turned into an additional space in the neighborhood. And so we said, okay, that sounds great. Let's do it. How do we do that? And we started the process. That's not the business we're in, right? We're working with young people. But we started the process of learning and figuring out how to do that. And in the process, we said, you know what? Once they cut all of the trees down, I said, this is beautiful. We should call the entire thing the Burrell Trail, not just the walkway across the street. So we began the campaign of making that alleyway the Burrell Trail. We hired some professionals, Dr. Shakira Tyler, Sister Naomi Cawthorn, to come in and consult with us and tell us how to bring the right type of agriculture to the space, landscape architects, make it into what we wanted. We had meetings with the community. We brought them in. We hired a DJ. We didn't call them meetings. We called them planning parties. We made pizza and tacos, and we put paper on the wall and wrote down ideas about what you want to see in this neighborhood, right? We did this 3 times. We came to some conclusions based on what the community said. Then we set the course to go about building the vision that the community had contributed. In that process, Rochelle Riley of the City of Detroit's Arts, Culture, and Entrepreneurship Department saw and heard about our alley project, wanted to come and visit, and we were so far along in our development, Rochelle said, you know what? I want to invest. The city is investing in certain alleys that have promised to be a great jewel in the city. I want to invest in this alley, this Burrell Trail that you guys are working on.
I want you to pause for a
Sure.
second and get back on that.
Okay.
As soon as we get back, you're watching Off the Cuff. I'm your host, Mark Scott. We have Greg McKenzie and Marvis Cofield of Alkebulan Village. So we're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and all kinds of social media platforms. So watch us, join us, comments, and subscribe. Absolutely subscribe, because you don't want to miss this information. We're going to be providing some critical information for our community and events that are happening in our community. So thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And go ahead, Greg. Tell me some more about that. That is intriguing.
So Rochelle Riley came. This thing just developed organically, as I said, out of a tragedy, the loss of 2 young lives. This whole thing blossomed, and Rochelle Riley said, you know what? We want to invest. We want to pay some muralists to come and do some things. We want to get some construction funds to renovate different things, different ways, give people new fences, all kinds of things, right? So they became a partner. Wildlife Habitat Council was already our partner, the first people that brought the brother to us, who even told us that the thing was wide open. So we turned this into a partnership with many partners in developing this alleyway. And when it's all said and done next spring, you'll be able to come and see it in live, living color. There's going to be an Alkebulan Village Marketplace across the street where we used to call that the Burrell Trail. There'll be a little entertainment stage set up there. There'll be stalls for vendors to come and bring their things and sell. And then all down the alley, it'll be an edible walkway with nutritious and healthy fruits and vegetables and herbs that the community can partake and participate in. There'll be signage to explain to folks what they're seeing, different ways to use things. Imagine an elderberry tree with the cough syrup recipe right there on the placard, so you can harvest some elderberry, take it in the house, prepare it in a way that it can become medicine for your family. This is what we envision coming out of the Burrell Trail, bringing life into the community. And with the blessing of the Burrell family, we officially are going to get a sign and everything to call this area the Burrell Trail. It's going to be on something you can Google, the Burrell Trail, and find out how to get there and the whole nine. So we feel like it's a beautiful way to pay tribute to the young ancestors who we fight on in their honor, but also to bring life and rebirth out of death.
Sure, absolutely.
So you feel the excitement, and we're
without
talking
a
about the
doubt.
alleys, and also when we talk about community development, some of the houses that are on Baldwin have been sitting there vacant. We have a program to not just rehab houses, but build new houses. And Greg, let's talk about that, because sometimes folks say, well, we want to just tear everything down. We want to restore us back to our greatness when possible. If not, then we want some new stuff. We want new homes, affordable homes. And we, for the last 3 years or 2, we have a 5-year plan that we're going to rehab, redevelop, and build houses in that same area where folks said, like they said in some of these areas, no one's going to ever come back. They're back. But we want those who've been here to know we got their back too. Would you speak to that, Papa Greg?
Absolutely. So we have a 5-year plan. It's a 50-50-50 plan. So we want to renovate 50 homes, build 50 new homes, put into service 50,000 square feet of commercial real estate space. But I want to talk about the new construction, because I think that's the most exciting part of it. I wish I had a picture to share with you, but we're talking about building very modern homes. And we're like a bi-level, 900 square foot. So it's not a huge house, but it looks like something maybe in a suburb enclave of the city of Detroit, but not something in Detroit, with an attached garage, brick facade, and 3 bedrooms, tall 10-foot ceilings when you walk in the front door, so it's very majestic. And we're building it from a material that has been on the shelf for far too long. It's called insulated concrete forms. And so building with lumber, they even 3D printing houses with concrete these days. But insulated concrete forms is a way where you can build a house with a concrete wall around the entire structure, sandwiched by polypropylene or insulation, so that the house is so tightly sealed that you won't lose any heat in the summer or in the winter, or any cool in the summer. You actually have to manually ventilate the house to get the gases to go out. So, I mean, it's a very, very resilient structure. There was some wildfires in California, and California is a place that has some ICF homes in it. All of the houses burned down except for the ICF homes. You could literally crash a cart into it and it would bounce off versus plowing through the house halfway into it before it stops.
Is that the same type of structure? Because I just got back from Jamaica. So I noticed the buildings, and when I go, I like to go into the neighborhoods. I don't like to stay at just the resorts and the hotels and what they show us.
Right.
I like to go where the people are.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And so they didn't seem to have any wood frames. Is that what we're talking about here?
So this would not be wood frames. I don't know what you were seeing in
Well,
Jamaica.
I didn't see. I mean, I saw these houses and they were shells, okay. But you can see how it was built, and I didn't see any wood beams or
Right.
anything like that in
Right.
there, and it just looked like cement all the way around.
Yes.
Well,
that's what this is. I mean, they actually pour. The system is called build block, and then they pour the cement into these forms, and then once they take the forms off because the cement is cured, you have a basement wall around the whole house basically. Okay. So me and Mr. Cofield went out together to see one in the field in action, and it is impressive. It's something that is now comparable to the price of lumber because things have changed. With material costs in ways that 10 years ago, ICF was more on the high end and it wasn't an everybody product. But we can build these 900 square foot ranch homes for $98 a square foot. And so that's about $40 cheaper than the average new home construction cost. And that's because we're using a program with apprenticeship, relationships with the carpentry, millwright, unions, and others. It's almost like going to the barber college and getting a haircut for less money because you're paying somebody who's in training. Right. So our labor burden ain't the same as somebody who's running a whole union job. We're paying apprentice as well as journeyman, so we don't have the full cost of the construction. So this will be, to me, a very beautiful opportunity for us to give the community a new house in a way that I don't think has been done in the area in a while.
All right, that's wow.
Now we got the alleys, we got the houses. Now, we already talked about roof houses, but the top of the roofs. But how about businesses? How do we do that to bring businesses in and those who have made it through the storm? How do we reevaluate and reinvest? What are we doing as it relates to talk about that program in terms of the business mall, the Harper Van Dyke business program?
The Easttown Village.
Come on now.
Business community, the Black Business Corridor.
That's right.
The Easttown Village Black Business Corridor. Basically,
This is commercial space.
This is commercial space.
Okay.
And at Harper and Van Dyke, ironically, there's about 15 black businesses that people just aren't aware of. Chantanique's Record Store. They've been there before Alkebulan Village.
I know you know about them.
Absolutely.
Come on now.
There's a black-owned gas station down the street, a Citgo station, Steen's Citgo, who we partner with in all kinds of ways.
Gas.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Van Dyke, Coney Island, another black-owned. The good brother who just transitioned, became an ancestor, world famous for his burgers. Food Exchange. They call it the Big Baby Burger.
Oh,
People
okay.
talking about the Big Baby Burger on the west side. Black owned. Juicery. Right there on the corner of Van Dyke and Harper. Revitalife, Juice Shop, Barbershop. I can go on. There are all of these black businesses right in that area.
Okay, now let me ask you the question because I'm sure that you guys are interested in where these places are and how can you get in touch with that. You guys have a website?
We do have a
Is there
website. We
some-
haven't put the directory of these businesses on that website, but we can do that.
Yeah, I think
For
that
sure.
would be instrumental.
For
I think
Let me
because-
follow up with you on,
Sure.
with the page with
Yes,
the
sir.
directory.
Absolutely, and I'll make sure that I get that on the platform.
I'll do
For
that.
sure. Yeah, I think they need to know that. And I think that's the whole purpose of this show.
For
Yeah.
sure. But equally important, we have created our own business.
Marvis Cofield.
I'm just excited when you said what you said about a website. We, in the last 3 or 4 years, have created an opportunity for young people to create their own business. As a result, we have the Village Pizza, and it came out as a organization as some children who, before the COVID, they got together and they were called Culinary Pleasure.
Embedded in Alkebulan.
In the village 5 years ago. I'm just excited when we talk about commercial.
I know you had a
and
store.
the store is still there.
Okay.
But this big program was a result of my grandson testing for his black belt, one of many of our students. And what happened was every year we would get pizza
Who's
from the
your grandson's name?
Germany Brown, who
Okay.
was the youngest black belt in our organization. He was 12 when he got his black belt, turned 13. But in that, every year, whoever tests would get pizza. And I was telling Barbara Gray, I said, Greg, is there a black-owned pizza place?
Oh, we got a call there. Somebody's interested in what
Okay.
you're talking about.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Hello, how are
Hello.
you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I am fine. And your name?
Sherry Oliver.
Sherry Oliver. Okay, you got a question?
Yes, I just would like to know what advice would Mr. McNair give to a new up-and-coming artist who's trying to break into the business?
Is that, you directing that to me?
Or Mr. McNair, either one of you would do just fine.
Okay. Okay, well, you want to know what advice I would give somebody that's wanting to come into the industry?
Sure, either one of you would be just fine.
Okay, well, I would say first of all, develop your skills, and then stick with your dream, and connect with somebody like myself or Mr. Cofield or Greg McKenzie here down at Alkebulan. I'm sure that they grow interesting talents. They have a studio down there as
Yes,
well,
we do,
right?
for sure.
That does with music. I would say contact, go on my website, markscottnow.com. Leave some information on my guest book, and I will contact. Who is this for? Is this somebody you know?
No, this was just a general question that I had.
Oh, just
I was
a general
just curious
question.
to know what his comments would be, or what your comments would be.
Okay, well, the purpose of this show is to expose people like that. That's the whole reason that I put this platform together, is so that I could make people aware of the opportunities that are in the community, and certainly at markscott.com. We have access to TJ Records and TJ Entertainment LLC, which has been around since the 90s. So I would say do that first, and let me talk to you on a longer conversation, and maybe we can direct you to somebody that can help you, or whoever it is that you're inquiring about, to get started.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for calling.
Right. That was a good
Okay.
question. Right. But in reference to business, Greg said he knows a young lady that went to Paris.
That was a beautiful
Oh
question.
yeah, that was right on too, because it's important. Each one teach one, each one reach one. So in terms of business, in terms of teaching young people, we were able to reach out to Greg, and he had a young lady who had went to Italy to learn how to do pizza firsthand, literally with her hands. So with that, Greg said, I can get her come in, and for our celebration of black belt testing, we have our own pizza done by people who look like us. And at the end of the day, we just won't make it, but we own our own business. So I said, bring her down. And as a result, she came down, Brittany March. And I'm going to let Greg talk about it, because once again, the whole issue where children saw people who looked like them, who made pizza and own their own business, They said, how do we do that? And so they culinary pleasure. Kids between the age of 6 to 15 went in business for themselves.
Culinary?
Coronary pleasure,
Oh.
eating different foods, edibles, whatever, but
Okay.
pizza, food, hamburgers, hot dogs, you name it. But pizza was the main vegetarian, vegan, and I'll let Greg talk about it because every time I think about it, I start salivating because I want
You
something
get
now.
hungry. You're gonna make me
Yeah,
hungry.
I'm telling you.
But hold on a second. Let me do a station
Okay.
recognition right quick, and then we're gonna wrap this up.
For
We got
sure.
a few minutes. I want to get on to that Kwanzaa thing. Okay?
Very much so.
But
For
you're
sure.
watching Off the Cuff. I'm your host, Mark Scott. We have the brilliant Mr. Marvis Cofield and the outstanding Mr. Greg McKenzie. I mean, I'm learning so much here tonight. So you're watching us live. We're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, Twitter and Twitch. So join us on this social media and follow us, subscribe, and soak up this information. I mean, I have learned so much here tonight. So thank you for watching WJZZ TV, coolest television program in the world. Greg, tell us about this culinary thing.
I gotta tell you, I like that tag. Coolest television.
WJZZ
In the
Cool
world.
TV,
That's right. That's
coolest
I like that.
station in the world.
Yes, it is.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, so thank you.
So this culinary pleasures program, I gotta give credit to Mama Rhonda Kennedy, who in many ways is the architect
Yes, she
of this project, and she brought together some young people to go and compete in a Shark Tank
Yes.
environment about a food business. And if I'm not wrong, our youth won second place.
Second place.
They won second place. Now, I think they lost to college students.
College student.
So, against stiff competition, we're talking
And
about.
how old are your
they're
participants?
teenagers.
Elementary and middle school.
But you kidding?
Some were high school. The majority were elementary students.
Okay, all right.
They had to put together a business plan, a pitch, and go into a Shark Tank environment and hold their own with others in that environment talking about their business. They won second place. They took that seed money and they started their food business there.
Okay.
The universe doing what it does in the beautiful way that things come together. Brittany March comes into the picture. Culinary Pleasures meets It's Food Detroit, which is her business, and we get Village Pizza. So we start on Martin Luther King's birthday 3 years ago
Okay,
because we're symbolic people like that.
of course.
And it was a hit. It was a hit right out the gate.
You know what? When I was growing up, there was a thing called Junior Achievement. Okay, and I participated in that, and I learned a lot about setting up businesses, getting your product and labeling it and so forth like that. And I've always been wondering if we had something like that in our community that would help our youth. Because it was really a great thing for me. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot from it, and I still use some of those techniques to
For
this
sure.
day.
For sure.
Some of that knowledge, but that's outstanding, man. That is incredible. I don't mean to cut you off,
No,
or nothing,
it's all connected.
but we only got a few more minutes.
For sure.
I definitely want to get to Ninjia Kai.
Right.
Okay, what's your association with her?
Well, Njia Kai is one of my sheroes, someone I've known for over 30-some years. She's an entrepreneurship person, organizer, developer. Anything that happens in Detroit and the metro that deals with giving people opportunity to run their own business or learn business or to organize events.
Okay.
She's one of the key people who organized and developed and made sure that the African World Festival, which started 44 years ago down at the Hart Plaza, she was part of that as a participant. Now she is the one who makes sure that she brings all people and things together to make sure it has that African flavor. And she is someone that we look up to and look forward to making sure that we at Kibalan Village and other businesses understand the importance of keeping it down on the ground and as we grow from a grassroots to global. So she's one of our partners as we celebrate our 45th anniversary.
Okay.
You know, we were blessed last year. City Council member Scott Benson came to us and said, hey, what's the possibility of building the tallest canard, which is the candle holder for the 7 candles that represent Kwanzaa. And
We're talking about Kwanzaa.
Kwanzaa downtown And because, you know, we have the Christmas tree, we have the menorah, but for a city where the majority of us, 98% in some cases, we feel is African American minority, but yet there's nothing cultural that we can look to downtown. And so we said, hey, we can do that. He said, you think? I said, we built the pyramid. So I talked to Brother Gray. I said, Gray, what you think about it? He said, we got to do it because we used to it. And 2 years later, this is going on our second year, we have the tallest Canara in the world. And we had over 50,000 people worldwide who saw it. And over 5,000 to 10,000 people participated last year. But this year will be even bigger and better. And at this time, I'll let Gray talk about it because he and a group. Now, keep a team means together everyone achieves more.
Of course, absolutely.
So with the 45th anniversary, we wanted to do the Canara. And on top of that, we're going to have a Kwanzaa ball.
There you go.
And we're going to have a ball.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brother Gray.
So the Motor City Kwanzaa Canara was born, as Infadishi Cofield explained, out of yet another triad. The Alkebulan village is approached by Council Member Scott Benson, and then through conversation, deciding to bring the Downtown Detroit Partnership into the picture because they handled the funding for the other two structures, the Christmas tree and the menorah, being responsible for aggregating philanthropy together to underwrite the monies that it takes to put those two in place. So they came to the table and agreed to do the same thing for the Canara, and so we were off and running. We hired a all-black team of architects and engineers. Since this is an African-American holiday, we wanted to lean into the best of our professional community, and they came up with an incredible design, and not just something that was aesthetically incredible, but also structurally incredible, because we had a polar vortex last year when we were putting the thing up, and it was tested by 70-mile-per-hour winds. That morning, Scott Benson and I were going on Channel 4 to one of the anchors to talk about the thing, and when we got to the station, Councilman Benson said, you know, I was worried if that thing was going to blow over. I said, my engineer told me that it was built to withstand 120-mile-per-hour winds. So that 70 wasn't nothing.
Okay.
So, but the bottom line is an incredible structure. It's the first of its kind at this scale to put Kwanzaa in the city center, where many black people just admittedly don't feel a place downtown anymore. This says that this is still your downtown. This is your cultural celebration. And folks, I grew up celebrating Kwanzaa, so for me it's an old news kind of thing. But many folks don't quite know what Kwanzaa is. So while down there building the structure, our team had an opportunity to answer questions for people, educate people, point them to resources, bring hundreds or thousands of people to a holiday that's about 7 principles with the power to heal us.
What are those 7 principles?
The 7 principles are Umoja, unity; Kuji Chakalia, self-determination; Ujima, collective work and responsibility; Ujamaa, cooperative economics; Nia, purpose; Kuumba, creativity; and most importantly, Imani, faith. And so last year we had Mama Shu, who is our shero over in Highland Park, making things happen at the Avalon Village, give a speech on faith, and she said, you ever heard the phrase, fake it till you make it? She said she's revised that, faith it till you make it. And if you know her story, you know she certainly faithed it.
Faith it.
Yeah.
Faith it till you make it.
And mention Mama Shu. Talk about what we're going to do in the
So that's a perfect segue, right? So
Yeah.
Mama Shu, Avalon Village,
Got about a
Alkebulan
minute.
Village, A2V2, we're coming together to do a Kwanzaa ball. December 26th, 8 p.m. You don't want to miss it. This is unity in the community. 2 village organizations bringing their villages together so that we can all celebrate and see the power of what happens when we join together to do something.
Okay, December the 26th.
December 26th.
Location?
It's going to be at the Tuxedo, Woodward and Tuxedo. 11745 is the address.
Okay.
That's Tuxedo and Woodward.
11745.
Absolutely. Woodward Avenue.
Woodward Avenue.
Woodward Avenue.
Okay, and it's called the Tuxedo.
The Tuxedo.
Okay.
And the tickets are only $75 per person and $100 VIP tickets. And for a couple, it's only $125.
$125 for a couple.
For a couple. And we're talking about food. We're talking about a 5-course meal. We're talking about live entertainment. We're talking about DJ. We're going to have carpet where you can come down and take pictures, red, black, and green. You can wear